Uh, it was a long time ago when Georgia opened up their season against Oregon and beat the ever loving snot out of them. Now, I was somebody who thought Oregon would stay close in that game, thought it would be a little bit tight. Um, I was dead wrong. Georgia came out, scored a touchdown on their first 7 possessions, steamrolled Oregon, made them look like they weren't in the same class. And yeah, everybody in the world of Georgia has forgotten about Oregon, as they probably should have. Me, I didn't. Um, and I sort of doubled down on Oregon as a good team and didn't get stuck in what I saw in week one. Now, I got into a little bit of a debate with another colleague in the media last night because, well, you know, Bo Nix of Oregon, former Auburn quarterback, um, gave an interview to CBSSports.com and had some interesting quotes today, or yesterday it was. And basically, Bo Nix said, and I'm going to quote him here. Now, if we played them, Georgia, again tomorrow, the game would be completely different, and everybody knows that. And then he was asked, do you believe Oregon would beat Georgia today? Bo Nix said, I do. From the first game of the season, a lot of teams get so much better, close quote. Now, Georgia fans obviously are going to scoff at the notion that Oregon could beat them. Um, I would tell you that is a team, Oregon is a team that may be the most equipped to beat Georgia of any team in the country at this point in time, more so than Alabama, more so than Tennessee. That is a really a legitimate, there's an argument there to be made. Will they do it? No, probably not. But is there an argument for it? Yeah, there absolutely is. I mean, this is a team that has the fifth best rushing offense in the country, right? They're top 20 in rushing defense. They have a quarterback who, when doesn't make mistakes, has been fantastic this year. Bo Nix has been legitimately off the charts good this year. Now, you can get into this whole transitive property game if you want and go, well, they only beat Washington State by 3. That's ridiculous. I mean, we're not going to sit here and do that because, again, Georgia only beat Missouri by 4. On a neutral side, I think Washington State beats Missouri. They're a better team. Um, so we don't need to sit here and play that transitive property game because you're just going to run around in circles. What I do know here is that Oregon, their defense travels, and what has happened is that Oregon now has become the most physical team in the Pac-12. Why? 2 words: Dan Lanning. Utah used to hold that moniker as the most physical team in the Pac-12. That's how they used to beat people. Well, that's how they did beat people. Um, but Oregon has changed. You know, when they went and smacked around UCLA last week, who is one of the best offenses in the country, and has one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country in Dorian Thompson Robinson. Um, you know, they beat them up front and they beat them around and they took a team that could run the ball really well with Zach Charbonnet and basically shut them down. Oregon is a very complete team because they're well coached. Why? Because they have a coach who, oh, by the way, learned under Kirby Smart. Like Dan Lanning isn't stupid. Dan Lanning has the ability and understands how to build a football team that can beat everybody. I'm not sitting here telling you that Oregon would beat Georgia, but if I had to list 3 teams, the top 3 teams that I think that could beat Georgia on a neutral site field, Oregon would be one of them. Now, Alabama would be the other, would be one, the second one, just simply because Nick Saban versus Kirby Smart, and he's got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and you can't deny that. So that would be another one. But I think when you talk about Georgia and who could beat them, and you're going to laugh at the third team that I'm going to pick. Um, but it's just, you know, I don't know. We've never seen Georgia play Ohio State. I was going to say Michigan, and then I just thought, okay, well, could Ohio State defensively presents some issues, if you will, right? Like that to me is something where I think Georgia could really take advantage in the Ohio State secondary, especially when you talk about Brock Bowers and the challenges that he would present from a coverage standpoint for a team that isn't necessarily great at pass defense. So that's why I kind of, look at them and go, But Ohio State probably would be one. Michigan, a coin flip game between the two of them. We'll see later on this year. But those are the type of teams. Either they're really fast and hard to cover on offense, which Ohio State is, or really physical like Michigan is. Oregon has the same sort of mantra with both of those, although they're not as fast on offense as Ohio State is. They're really physical up front. And Bama, those are a handful of teams I think that could beat Georgia. But still, Georgia is a team that has to play flawless this year. You've seen what happens when they make mistakes. Kent State hangs around. Missouri has a lead. I've said routinely all year long, the only team that can beat Georgia is Georgia. If Georgia doesn't make mistakes in a game and they don't turn the football over and they execute, like they don't go like 3 for 13 on third downs, those kind of things, they execute well, nobody's beating Georgia. But if you'd like to make a case for the handful of teams that could beat them, Oregon would absolutely be in that bunch. They're talented enough, they're well coached, and they have a quarterback that is accomplished enough. Now, you guys are all sitting here going, well, Bo Nix has never beaten Georgia, whether he's at Auburn or Oregon. You're right. He hasn't. I mean, it should go a little bit beyond the quarterback, especially in college. Not so much, in the NFL, it's different, but still. It's just interesting. Like, is Bo Nix out over his skis thinking they can beat Georgia? I wouldn't say completely. Would Georgia win again by 46? No. They're not beating Oregon by 46 a second time around. On a neutral site field, no shot. I don't even think they beat Oregon by 46 at Sanford Stadium. They're just a better team now. They're a different team. Dan Lanning wasn't prepared to handle Georgia in week one as much as he knows everything that they do. He's probably a lot more equipped to handle them now. Everybody should be better now than what they were in week one. That's kind of how a football season goes. Speaking of football, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Falcons your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. You don't want to miss the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast.